I'm starting to wholeheartedly believe that the jury foreman of Karen Reed's first trial was either planted there on purpose, was handpicked, or had done some kind of outside research and purposely fucked up their juror's note so that there would be a mistrial and Karen Reed would have to go through all of this bullshit again. In a second, I will point out some specific parts of the Supreme Court's ruling where that kind of makes me feel that way. However, I also want to give a reminder of who the jury foreman was. Without stating his name, the jury foreman was a former cop who was hit by a vehicle. That's the reason why he was not a cop anymore, because he got injured on the job, and now works in the medical field. Now that you know that background about that individual, let's go into the Supreme Court ruling. If you don't know how jury deliberations work, basically what happens is that usually a member of the jury is chosen either by lottery most of the times, or in this case is handpicked by the judge to kind of be the spokesperson or the foreman of all the jury members. It's this same person that will write notes to the judge, and the judge will then speak it out in court, and they will have discussions about these notes. It is also the jury foreman who will put their name on all of the final rulings, juror counts, mistrial, hang jury things, all of these things. In Karen Reed's first trial, the juror foreman's notes were very particular. So particular that the Supreme Court pointed that out. Quote, after extensive multi-day deliberations, the jury submitted several increasingly emphatic notes about their inability to reach a unanimous verdict. And they're quoted even saying that they said an exhaustive review of the evidence and diligent consideration of all disputed evidence. The foreman also wrote down that the jurors were deeply divided by fundamental differences and that the consensus was unattainable. The Supreme Court states that echoes language from other cases where they, the Supreme Court, have characterized a jury's report of deadlock as unambiguous. The jury foreman used language that was in case law that the Supreme Court would recognize, that Bev Canoni would recognize. Why does a random ass former New Hampshire cop know that? Was the jury foreman's note scripted? Why was their verbiage copy and pasted from previous case law? In a footnote further on in the decision, it says, additionally, the notes did not request clarification on whether a particular verdict could be returned. This absence is particularly significant given the evident, quote, care that went into writing the notes and how articulately they expressed the jurors' disagreement. The care that went into writing the notes. The Supreme Court goes on to state that the third note made clear that further deliberation would, quote, only serve to force them, the jurors, to compromise deeply held beliefs rooted in, quote, sincere adherence to the jurors, individual principles and moral convictions. The jury foreman used exact quotes from case law, and I mean down to like the punctuations. Just as a reminder, before the jurors were excused for the end of the court day, they were all told, do not do any outside research. And then when they came back for the next court date, Canoni would all ask them, did anyone do any outside research? And they all said no, every single one of them. Clearly that foreman did research. And that same foreman was handpicked by Judge Canoni to be the spokesperson of the jury members. And it was that same foreman who told the rest of the jury members that they had to either say yes or say no to everything. It's all or nothing, black and white. You can't acquit on one count and not the others. We all need to agree on everything, or it's a hung jury. This is no longer conspiracy. More and more jurors are coming out, and there's more and more evidence, especially after the Supreme Court ruling, that show this foreman was at a minimum compromised in one way or another.